Hello, and welcome to the From the Top interview and podcast series. I'm happy to be joined today by Colleen Lennox, who is the founder and CEO of Cyber Job Central. Colleen, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you don't mind, maybe just introduce yourself quickly and your business.
Sure. So my name again is Colleen Lennox, and I'm a Philadelphia girl, born and raised in Philadelphia. I have been a recruiter since I got out of college. I started in the recruiting space right out of school, and I've been doing that, especially on the IT side, exclusively for the past 30 years. And so basically, Cyber Job Central is a job platform for cybersecurity professionals.
Great. And so, your whole recruiting career was that mainly in IT?
Yes, I started out,
Wow.
when I first got out of school, I started in engineering. I was
Okay.
more on the engineering side. Well, it was 1990, so I don't think there were
As many
computer
IT
science.
jobs.
Everything was like an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineer, a civil engineer. So it was more on the engineering space. But then as time evolved and it became more computer centric, I moved into more the IT space. And I've, seen that everything, I have, all the different technologies that have come and gone through the years, the
Yeah,
dot-com, the Y2K, all those fun, crazy things.
I remember it well.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
now I guess the biggest impact in the IT space is this cybersecurity world and the
right.
impact that it's having on our society.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been through that. I was an IT and management consultant for 30 years, so I remember Y2K very much. It was like um, my cousin got married on January 1st, 2000. So my whole
No.
family was freaking out. Are planes going to fall out of the sky? Will the electricity work? And I'm like, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So with Cyber Job Central, do you just recruit for cyber jobs or cybersecurity? Is it pure security focus?
Well, I've been in this again in the staffing place for a long time. I fell into cybersecurity in around 2016 when it was kind of becoming like a popular buzzword because before that it was more infrastructure, firewalls type of person. They didn't really call it cybersecurity, to my knowledge, anyway.
Mhm.
So I kind of fell into that space in like 2016 and I fell in love with it.
Yeah,
It's a great group of people. They are so willing to help one another, but it's one of those areas where it's definitely tricky to recruit for because, most recruiters will search by buzzwords, but cybersecurity buzzwords are interchangeable, so it doesn't necessarily mean that's the person for your job. So as you hear about all this talent shortage with the cybersecurity community. So we wanted to start a job board
mm,
and do something a little bit different. I still recruit for friends and family only, but we're trying to really get this off the board to help more people find these opportunities. So we made it very niche specific to
yeah,
cybersecurity to help these people instead of being on these great big job boards where they're getting thousands and thousands of applicants to try to like make it more centralized.
yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And for other entrepreneurs out there, they probably hear this a lot, right? But focus, right?
Right,
Get your business really niche down as much as possible.
right.
Just if take a quick, speak to that, speak to the power in niching down.
Well, I've always been more niche as a recruiter. So I had an opportunity to start a PeopleSoft practice back in the day at one of the companies I worked for. So, when you only focus on one area, people think you're like missing out on other things, but really you've become known as the expert in that area. So this is actually my second startup. I started another staffing agency in 2020, no, 2002, and we focused only on project managers and business analysts type of people. So that was our niche.
Mm,
And we did really well. We were women owned. We grew. We were like Inc. magazine, growth
wow.
growth. We were Philly #1 fastest growing business in Philadelphia one year. So it was like we did really, really well focusing on a niche. But I sold that. I had an opportunity to have an exit.
Hmm.
So after I left there, I was doing some business development for them, and that's where I fell into cybersecurity. So now I left there, and now my focus is only cybersecurity.
That's great. Yeah, I spent a majority of my career doing PeopleSoft. So,
Okay, no, really?
oh yeah, yeah,
Isn't
that
it funny
was
that I said that word? Because
it is. Yeah, well, IT is a small world. People think
yeah,
it's, but it is small. My basically my first job out of college was at Shared Medical Systems, which is now part of Siemens out in
yeah,
Melbourne, and they got into PeopleSoft, I think, in 1996. And since I was sort of just coming out of college, I had more client server than mainframe experience, and I got into PeopleSoft, went into consulting, and did that for a long, long time. So I know.
who did you do consulting for?
I worked for Aerotech, the Maxim Group briefly,
Yeah.
and then I worked for a small company out of Mississauga, Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
BTRG, Business
Mm-hmm.
and Technology Resource Group. I was with them for 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
I'm an
then,
I'm an I'm an Aerotech girl also. That was my
okay.
first job.
Okay. Yeah. They recruited me from Shared Medical. It was
Uh-huh.
back in the 90s, all you had to do was be able to spell PS and they hired you, right? For PeopleSoft.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
yeah, yeah.
was crazy.
Well, we'll go way back. Shared Medical was the first place that was I placed a C++ programmer there in like 95 when it
Wow.
was brand new.
Yeah. Well, I was there in 95.
Okay, that's so
That's
funny.
amazing. It is
Yeah.
so funny. It's a small world, but
Mhm.
I think that example, as well as what you're talking about now with the cyber security focus, both of those things, like you are known for that thing, you develop expertise in that one area. And so it's just so valuable when you're starting a business or growing a business to focus on who do we serve best? What is our, just niche down. It makes all the difference.
Yeah, it makes telling the story much easier.
That too. That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe I'll kind of let you take this question in which direction you'd like, but I often ask about misconceptions about either being an entrepreneur or in your industry, or, I know IT is very male dominated. So if you want to talk about what it's like to be a woman in recruiting for IT and, or just whatever you feel makes sense, but like, what are some misconceptions that might be out there?
Well, I think obviously, I'll talk about being an entrepreneur first.
Yeah.
So if obviously you have an idea. I think what is it? 1% of people actually start a business, take a business from an idea to reality. And there's a reason why it's so low. It is hard. It's super
Yes.
hard. It is lonely. It is painstaking at times. It has to be something you're completely passionate and believe in 1,000%, because you will not, you will quit if you don't.
Yes. Yes.
So I say I always, for me, what's helps me get through the days sometimes as an entrepreneur is I keep my circle very small. I don't tell a lot of people about what I'm doing. I have just a couple friends that I share things with so that when I am falling off mentally some days, they can say, keep going, keep going, keep going. Because the people that you need to have just a small group that believes in you and pushes you to keep going. Because it's hard and it's lonely. And I do think like when you do meet another entrepreneur and you have an opportunity to build that friendship, because you do need to lean in on each other.
You know, I've had a lot of these conversations with other entrepreneurs and CEOs and leaders, and almost to a person, everyone talks about in some form or another perseverance, resilience.
Hmm.
It's so critical. I think sometimes, especially younger entrepreneurs can see the flashy famous CEOs like Bezos and Zuckerberg and Musk and everything. Like, oh, it's so cool to have your own business, but it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I
And
love what
and you don't see what they went through first. You only hear the success story. They
right.
spent years with an idea in their head, putting pen to paper, making something happen, failing, 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 and then figuring it out, because that is how you learn how to
Yeah.
make a business successful, by messing it up 1,000 different ways.
Exactly, exactly. Even the masters of whatever it is, right? They have more failures in their past, and that's what made them a master of whatever craft it is.
Right,
And
exactly.
the other thing I really liked what you were talking about is, keeping your circle small and having that, because it can be lonely when you're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, and if especially if you're the leader of that company, you're kind of, at the top, and either they say the buck stops there, but all responsibility goes there, and
Yeah.
it's you to make that business happen. So I love that. It is good to have an advisor. That's what I do a lot with my clients too. It's like I'm there to be that consigliere, that sounding board, just bounce ideas off of and give you strategies, to move.
Yeah. You need
All
it.
right.
I mean, I think everyone needs it.
Yeah. So shifting a little bit, based on what it takes, right, to do that. How do you kind of keep a balance between your work and non-work and not just getting totally absorbed in the business?
Well, the reason I started my first business because I had two little boys at the time. And I was, work, I had to be in work at 8. I had to leave at 5, back in the day before. This was
Mhm.
back in the 1900s when, when there was no such thing as work from home. And, it
Right.
was, sometimes running out of the office at 5 o'clock. And back then, if you left a minute before 5, you were a slacker. You were not a good employee. You were, not dedicated.
Yeah.
And I just remember being on 95 trying to get to daycare to get my kids. And driving like a maniac sometimes if there's tons of traffic. And I'm like, this isn't worth it. This
Stressful.
isn't worth it. And then 9/11 happened. And, I think it kind of it changed me because I lost someone. And I decided to go out on my own and do my first business. And you know what? As much as I had youth on my side, I was 32 and just doing this business. And um I was resilient. I was naive. So I think all those things play in your favor your first time around. And then, as you grow, and then what happens also in a business is that you get stuck doing the things that you really didn't want to do. As the owner, you have to, you're not, maybe your love was one thing, but as you grow a business, your love has to become operations, the business, the employees, and all that stuff. So I wasn't prepared for that the first time that you'd have to pivot like that.
Yeah. And so nowadays, you've able to find a better balance.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, it was great going out on my own and raising children because I'm an early riser. I think most entrepreneurs are early risers because you really want to get a lot of things out of the way before anybody starts calling you. So I've just always worked that way, where I would get up by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and start my day, answering emails, getting back to people so that I could like take the time to be there if, to drive them to school, to go to their plays, to go to the like something that, an event they were having at school, and also be on the, parents council and all those things. So if you're willing to be flexible with your time, there's enough time in the day to do it all well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved what you were saying there too about, again, maybe under the misconception of being an entrepreneur, but um, you have to do some things that you don't love to do sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, maybe you're not even that great at them, right?
No,
Because you just
at
have to do
all.
them.
At all.
Right.
It
Right.
at all. Yeah. Like
So, yeah,
at
go
my
ahead.
last business, I'm sorry. At
Mm,
my last business, we went through the mortgage crisis, and our biggest client was a financial service. We
mm,
had like 50 people working there, and overnight, all those people, half of them were gone, and then the other half, the margins dropped. So you're like, oh, now, and all of a sudden you had to become an accountant to figure out how,
right.
how you're going to pay people.
Right. And I think that becomes a big lesson that entrepreneurs have to learn and go through is to be able to get your business to the point where you can start to take those things that you're not the best at and don't love doing, and maybe they don't even help are that significant to help your business and move them off, right? Outsource them, get other people who are better at it, more
Yep.
efficient at it to do it. Because otherwise you'll just get swallowed up by the business.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Like I think sometimes I kept a lot of things to myself when I was struggling in the beginning, but now I'll share them with certain people that I trust. And people say, "Oh, call this place, try this place, try this place," to find other resources that are inexpensive, not inexpensive, but not as costly as other places. And um, so there are a lot of resources out there. So when you do have to lean into something, you don't have the money to spend
Right.
on something, you could be creative.
Yes. And I think that speaks to the importance of building networks.
Mhm. Yes, for
It's so
sure,
important. Yeah.
for sure.
So, technology is always evolving and changing. Any thoughts on how you stay up, in terms of what you need to know for recruiting, stay up to date with what's going on in cybersecurity? How do you do that?
Well, something you mentioned earlier about like being a woman in a man's field, and
Mm.
it's, obviously cybersecurity, it looks like white men. But like everything in IT. But
Mhm.
I had an opportunity to join the WeSys group, which is a Women in Cybersecurity, and it's a networking group. It's national, but we have a chapter here in the Philadelphia area. It's WeSys Delaware Valley, and it is, it's tremendous group. It's men and women. It's not just women, it's men and women. But the cyberspace is so generous with their time and their expertise. So if someone is out there and in cyber and they're listening, look into networking groups because they're always beneficial. They do help you out.
Yeah, and I find you can learn so much there too.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so to the extent you're comfortable, what are you looking forward to? What's coming up for your business in the next year or so?
So we really, I mean, it's been a labor of love, I guess you would say, getting to this point. But
Yeah.
we just want to continue to grow. We feel like we found a good solution. We're using AI as part of our solution for recruit. Basically, when people go in for an interview, when people apply to a job, they automatically get interviewed by an AI bot type of
Mm.
thing. So it's an avatar. It'll ask the questions. The customers come up with the questions that they want the employees to ask. So this way, what's happening now in all areas, not just cybersecurity, there's so many people out of work that jobs get the apply rate is insane.
Yeah.
So it makes recruiters' jobs 10 times harder. So this way, people can go through. If you think you're the right person for the job, you're going to interview. If you do well, you're going to go through to the hiring team. And when you're not, that's going to give you feedback as to areas you need to improve on.
Yeah.
So we think I mean, obviously AI is here to stay, no matter if we're afraid of it or not. It's definitely here to stay. And we think this is going to be used for the good.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that trend too, just the amount of applicants, even if they're not remotely qualified for a technical job, they're going for it. Just, I can't tell you how many interviews I've had that people don't even pass my first question. And I'm like, you clearly don't know this technology.
Yeah.
So
Well, they say 80% of applicants aren't right for the job. That's a lot of
yeah,
wasted time for everybody. And also it messes with your head if you're the applicant. Like
yeah,
to be rejected and rejected and rejected. It's not, and I think people think that someone's going to see their resume and be like, oh, they're not right for this job, but they might be right for that job. And it's just that people don't even, recruiters can only look at a resume, I think they say 6 seconds.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So this is another question I kind of always ask, but if you could wave a magic wand over your business, any area of it, and have whatever outcome you would like, what would that be and why?
It's for me, I find this is challenging. I've been in sales for 30 years now, and sales has changed.
Mm,
So where before you could pick up the phone and call someone, then you had to send emails. Um, then do you have to be good at social media? Like, how do you get your message in front of people? So for me, I would really like a clear answer as to that to answer for that problem. Because I
mm,
think everybody's struggling. Like, how do you get noticed?
right. Yeah, well, and I think it's getting there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Even like we just talked about with the applicants, there's just a lot of noise. More and more people are online and there's posts about personal and business intermingling, and it's just sometimes hard to find the signal and even more difficult to be the signal.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
when you know there's a problem and everybody knows there is a problem and you have a solution, you think it'd be easy, but it's not.
right.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Great stuff there. Just lovely interview. It was great talking with you. Thank you.
You,
For
Mike.
coming on
Thank
the
you for
show.
your time. Thank you.
Of course. And to everyone listening, I thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.